is it your contention still, regardless of Dr. Boden's testimony or anything, that there is evidence that shows...
There's evidence that shows Michael Brown had his hands up. Yes, there's no doubt about that. And that is not in regards to his testimony. That is regards to what we know based on our review of all the opinions, his and others.
And forensic evidence as well.
Yes, absolutely, forensic evidence. And Dr. Biden is basing his testimony on science and nothing.
At this point, it sounds like this process has no credibility in your eyes.
Well,
now.
we've questioned Ryan, as you know, from the beginning, this whole process. Again, we've been on the record. We think there's enough probable cause that exists to charge the police officer with killing an unarmed teenager. And we've been consistent on that. In that way, everybody will get their due process. The constitutional rights will be extended both to the police officer, but also to Michael Brown Jr.
If it's so evident, why don't you believe the grand jury will also come to that conclusion?
Well, here's the problem. When you have a grand jury, they only have one voice in there, and that is, historically, they're going to do whatever the prosecutor wants them to do.
All right, that is the attorney Crum for the Brown family. We've been following the story out of Ferguson after Michael Brown was shot, and the grand jury testimony, the attorney says, is now nearly done. Michael Boden testifying, I believe, earlier today, and they expect some type of decision that may come out as early as this weekend or maybe early next week, probably at the latest. And the grand jury testimony in the Black Missouri teen slaying is nearly done. There have been leaks from the grand jury. Some of those leaks have said that as many as 6 black eyewitnesses to the shooting have testified corroborating the testimony of Darren Wilson, the police officer involved in the incident. That being that Michael Brown tried to wrestle the gun away from the officer inside the car where the first shot was fired. And then after running away, he started running back towards the officer in a threatening manner. At that point, if that is in fact what was testified to and happened, it may end up that they don't indict this police officer. Now we're hearing from the governor, and we're hearing from police officials, and we're hearing from people all over the place that they are now preparing for the worst, which could be riots again in Ferguson, Missouri, and some deep unrest. And we know that the police department is stocked up on tear gas and other defense mechanisms that they would be using if, in fact, that happens. Michael Brown's parents addressed the United Nations. We need the world to know what's going on in Ferguson. We need justice. Although they did, as a family, and lawyers for the family have appealed for calm as Ferguson now awaits the grand jury decision. Here to go through all of this, we have Fox News legal analyst and contributor and the host of Sports Court Media, Tamara Holder, the Reverend Jesse Lee Peterson of the group Bond, Brotherhood Organization of a New Destiny. Earlier in his career was a civil rights activist himself. Welcome all of you to the program.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate being on.
Thanks, Sean.
Tamara.
I'm looking forward to your interview tonight with the Bushes.
Thank you, sir.
I voted for him twice.
Yeah, no, it was a really good interview and a lot of fun. I went down to Texas, and it was quite an experience, to be honest.
I bet, man.
Tamara, let me begin with you. So we hear these leaks from the grand jury. We see the preparation the police is going through. You just heard from the attorney. So if, in fact, there are as many, if the leaks turn out to be true, I can't be sure, but they were reported widely, that anywhere between 6 and 8 black residents testified and corroborated the police officer's story, that would seem to me that the likelihood of them coming back with an indictment is rather low, right?
No, I think that, let's just look at the facts. First of all, take out the black and white issue. I think that is unfair of you to start with that. You asked me a question. Let me finish, Sean. The grand jury convened in August. Let me give you the facts. I got to stop you
because, no, this is important. Tamara, this has been portrayed in the media as a white officer.
Let me finish.
I'm not done. A white officer shooting an unarmed black teen. We were told originally he was shot in the back. We were told that this was racial. The fact, you cannot ignore a fact here, which is that this has become, in this country, a racial case. Now, if the eyewitnesses happen to be black and they testified before the grand jury, that's as relevant as the media constantly pronouncing a white officer shooting a black unarmed teen. Go ahead.
Right. However, you are the media, and you are somebody who wants to point out a few facts that as many is 6. Let me talk again about the facts. The grand jury convened August 20th. That's 3 months now. I agree with the attorney Crum, who says the grand jury is only one voice in there. That's what he said, quote, that you just played that. That is absolutely not correct. It's been 3 months now of gathering witnesses. Dr. Bodden is one. These 6 black people who said that they saw that the officer may have been justified. We have a grand jury process. We can debate the facts all day long right here, right now. But I was in the Drew Peterson grand jury when he was accused of killing his wife or several wives or whatever in Illinois. The grand jury process should be respected by members of the media, by Mr. Crum, by everybody, and understand that there are 6 black men that were in there that may have testified, that the forensics pathologist testified, all of these different people, and the grand jury, which has 12 people in Missouri, are doing their job. This is part of justice. This is about American society that makes us such a great country, that we don't bring people to the chopping block for killing somebody unless there is a formal process. And that's what needs to be respected right now and has been for the past 90 days.
Jesse, what's your reaction?
You know, hearing that soundbite from the attorney, it sounds as though if the grand jury doesn't come back with what they want to hear, and that is a guilty verdict, they're not going to accept it, because he made it clear that he can't trust these folks. He's looking back at past history, and that is sending out a coded message to angry black people that if they don't get what they want, they're not going to accept anything else. And I think the attorney should be ashamed of himself for sending out that type of message, especially to those black people who only want vengeance on white Americans for past history, of something that they had nothing to do with anyway. And that's what this attorney is setting that up for. This is not justice in America. We saw this with the Trayvon Martin situation where George Zimmerman, it didn't matter that he was innocent. They wanted a guilty verdict. Some of the radicals down there put a bounty on his head in the same way they're doing with this officer. And, it's not the American way. And at some point, America have to say no to these radicals and stop caving in, period, so that this crap can end.
I think that if we look at Martin Luther King and his history, we are a society that should appreciate peaceful protesting. Peaceful protesting. We can do it, whether it has to do with a black man who was killed by a white officer, justifiably or not. And that is something that Martin Luther King who is a leader of our country and a leader of civil rights, talked about. The problem is that everybody, or many people, including some of the elected officials, including attorneys who have a duty to protect the sanctity of the grand jury, are inciting violence, are prepping people to go out and protest. And it's wrong. For this attorney to say the grand jury is only one voice is absolutely incorrect. 90 days, Sean. It's been 90 days. They're trying to do, trust me, the attorneys in there are trying to do the best job possible to get as many witnesses in there.
I agree with all that you're saying, but there's a very good chance, if the reports, the leaks are true, and you have all these eyewitnesses that are going to corroborate the police officer's story, which is that Michael Brown tried to get his gun and there was a tussle for the gun in the car where the first shot went off, and that he was coming at the officer in a hostile manner, that would, by anybody's definition, represent a justifiable use of force. Again, we don't know what's going on for sure inside the jury room. I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but what we have is, in light of the reaction the last time in the community, there is a justifiable fear that could reemerge, and now you've got the police departments all preparing for this, and I think in large part is because a lot of people rushed to judgment in this case.
And you're right, Sean, and it's so bad in Ferguson, and I write about this on my website at bondinfo.org. The businesses in that area are afraid. There are black and white businesses who are boarding up their businesses because they don't want to go out of business as a result of these radical gun sales have gone up in Ferguson. These folks have sent out a warning to the cop. These radicals have.
Well, they even put a bounty on Darren Wilson's head.
They put a $5,000 bounty on his head and a $1,000 bounty on his family members.
Hang on a second. If anyone put a bounty out on Obama's head, and I don't know who did, then that person needs to be picked up and put away for life.
Sure, they were selling lotto tickets or betting how quickly he would be assassinated.
I don't know.
You can't
I've never heard of
on
this. I'm saying that if anyone makes a threat against the president, if anyone makes a threat against the innocent people of Ferguson, they need to be arrested.
And they were. There were people arrested, but there were also peaceful protesters that were arrested who shouldn't have been arrested.
But the people who put the bounty on this officer head have not been arrested. Just as down in Florida, they put a bounty on Joyce Zimmerman head. No one was arrested for that. And Mr. Zimmerman is afraid to even go out even today.
He should be afraid. George Zimmerman is a risk to society. He has been in trouble. He is the biggest disaster. He has been arrested.
Tamara, wait a minute. You're a lawyer. He was found not guilty based on the evidence. You had an eyewitness that said that Trayvon Martin was on top of him, grounding and pounding and threatening his life.
I covered the case in detail, Sean. We don't need to go over it. Okay, I get it.
But the point is, he should not be in fear of his life. The system worked, and the system found him not guilty.
The system
based on the evidence.
The system also worked for Casey Anthony, who is in fear of her life, who has to be in hiding. Do you know where she is? No, because she was found guilty of being accused. She was accused of killing her daughter. She was found not guilty, and she is also in hiding. People are paying for her.
Mr. Zimmerman was found innocent.
No, there's no such thing as found innocent. He was found not guilty.
Right, he was found not guilty.
So was Casey Anthony.
And as a result of going through the process
but
and being found not guilty, he should have the freedom to walk the streets now.
As should Casey Anthony.
Right.
That's right.
Okay, that's fine. Then, but we're talking about a justifiable fear here that there's a bounty. The KKK has also put together a fund for Darren Wilson.
Listen,
that's
nobody's
inappropriate as well.
Nobody wants the KKK. Nobody wants the new Black Panther Party or any of these radical groups on either side involved in this case. My hope and my prayer for the people of Ferguson is that they will accept that the grand jury did their due diligence, did their job thoughtfully and exhaustively, and that they will accept the verdict. But
I've spoken to
but there are people that want trouble after this and are going to try and foment trouble, and like those people that have put a bounty on Darren Wilson's head. Is Darren Wilson
I've spoken to some of the folks who are participating in the protest there in Ferguson, and they have said they are not going to accept anything but guilty. And so if he's not found guilty, there will be trouble in the land.
If he's not indicted? If he's not
I'm sorry, yeah. If they don't indict him, there will be trouble in the land. They're not going to accept anything but an indictment.
Now, here's what it's going to come down to in my mind. If eyewitnesses say that, in fact, the officer's life was in danger and that he acted in self-defense and that he told the truth, I don't think there's going to be an indictment.
I don't see. You're right. I agree.
If all I know is that I am an attorney, I have been in the grand jury process before, inside of it. I have also successfully represented people who are charged with crimes, including murder. And I can say that I would like to see, I see that there are racial relations issues in this country that we need to overcome.
But
however,
that's not true.
I trust, give me a break. Of course
I have to tell you.
Let me finish, sir. We have a grand jury process. It's been 90 days now, and we have to appreciate and respect that ruling or that decision by the 12 members who have devoted their life every single day to the process. And so to focus on the negative is an injustice to the listeners.
I agree. We have to accept whatever happens. But let me just say, really, people on the side of the truth cannot go on confirming what the people on the side of the lie are saying. It's not a race issue in America. It's a one-sided race issue. And it's pretty much that way because many black folks have not pulled away from the race hustlers and looked at the situation for themselves. If black Americans were to take control of their lives, stop believing the lies, stop hating white people, they would see that white Americans have gone out of their way to make amends for the past, to show black Americans that they love them as Americans, as human beings. So it's the black racism that we have to get over, not white racism.
All right. Last word, Tamara, quick.
I absolutely disagree that there's only white racism out there.
I didn't say only white. I said black.
Black racism. We have race relations issues. We have more black men incarcerated in our jails. One in three black men
because of racism.
All right, but let me end by saying this. There are people of all races that are racist, but they are the minority, thankfully, in this country. And, I think there's going to be people that try to exploit this for their own, whatever their agenda happens to be. But
well, how we deal with racism is the grand jury process.
When the grand jury renders its decision, we'll have you both back. Thank you both for being with us.
All right. Thank you, Sean.